Yes.
I would like to call the public hearing on the transfer of funds from transportation fund to the operations and maintenance fund to order. Mr. Bertolozzi, are you prepared?
Of course.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for coming. This is our public hearing to transfer $6.5 million from our transportation fund to our O&M fund. This is something that we've done over the last few years, and it's something that we have budgeted for. And this is not really over levying. What we're doing is the amount of money that we're getting is going to be 0.7% on the CPI. So this is merely a transfer of funds, put money from one fund to another, which we're allowed to do. This is something that we discussed at the March 22nd Finance Committee and was reported out to the board. And I know it's something that we've been talking about in finance for the last couple months. So this is something that the board's been aware of. We did do a posting in the Northwest Herald on April 15th, as we were required to do, and we are having this public hearing as we are also required to do. So tonight there is a resolution that you will consider, and we will ask you to approve.
Any board members have questions for Mark?
Questions only. I do have some comments about that. There was some information that was communicated out in Mr. Skinner's blog this morning, and I want to address that because Mr. Syverson posted it, and I believe he was either misinformed or he misunderstood what's going on in the district. So I'd like to clarify that and make sure that we understand what exactly the district is doing and how that's all working out. We are indeed transferring $6.5 million from transportation into O&M for summer projects. There were 13 projects on our list that came out last fall. We looked at them last fall across the board, and the budget for that, the estimate that we got on those 13 projects was at the time it was over $6 million. Now we went out to bid on all of those projects, and the bids came back on those projects to be $5.5 million. However, as has been the case in every year in the last several years, administration looked at it and it elected to push some of those projects back. A year ago, we were looking at doing the HVAC at Riverwood and some other stuff with Riverwood then, and that was an example of a project a year ago that we pushed back into this year's numbers. So after we pushed that back and took some of the numbers out, we're looking at $3.7 million of additional of summer projects this year. To put that, excluding what's going on in Riverwood, there's additionally another $2.5 million of projects at Riverwood that the board approved at the last board meeting, I believe it was. Has already approved those particular summer projects. So that brings us to a total of 3.7, another 2.5, so $6.2 million worth of summer projects. So that's definitely true. We are doing that. 3.7 million of summer projects. All of those were bidded out. Again, 7 of them were pushed back into the future. It doesn't make sense right now financially. We don't have the resources to do all of them right now, as much as we'd like to do them. And so we're going to push that $1.7 million of additional projects back into some future year, next year or the year after. The statement was project estimated. There's a statement in here about the estimate being $2.2 million of projects. I'm not sure where that was. That was never a number that we had for our various projects. Again, the initial bid, the initial estimate was $6 million. The bid was $5.5, and we're looking at $3.7 million of additional projects that haven't been approved as of yet. As we look at those bids, none of our bids that we've done in the past have come in over budget. We've come in at budget, or we've come in under budget from what we've proposed out. And that includes not only what we've done with summer projects, but also what we've done with our current building expansion. We're currently in the middle of a 4 phases of building expansion where we're eliminating mobiles and we're adding additional classrooms with the potential to use those classrooms for all-day kindergarten if that's something we decide to do. That hasn't been decided as of yet. It's something we're looking at. It's a question of can we afford the long-term recurring cost of doubling our kindergarten staff. That'll determine whether or not we actually go through it. But right now, since we're replacing mobiles and we are adding staff on the staff, we have the opportunity to do construction on those buildings. The time to add those additional classrooms for the potential for that is now, rather than go through that, replace the mobiles, and then come back, decide we're going to do all-day kindergarten because we think we can afford it, and then have to go back and do another construction project on all the buildings. That just would be awful expensive. That would be foolish to do it that way. There's some other comments in here, some misinformation. Painting on the murals estimated to be at $5,000, completed at $27,000. The $5,000 estimate per building was actually a basic touch-up estimate that was gone on that was put in the budget to touch up the various buildings. The $27,000 that we actually spent, which was also in the is in the bid with the $4.8 million total Riverwood estimates, is actually to paint the whole building, not just to paint one set of murals. We're repainting all the hallways in that building. There was also a comment about repainting the transportation department break room for $23,000. We didn't repaint the transportation break room for any money because we didn't repaint it. But what we did do is we repainted all of central office, and that was at $23,000. I don't believe we didn't go out for bid for that because our standard, did we go out for bid for that?
We did not, because it's $25,000, but we did get a number of proposals to get the most.
Right. Our standard process, board policy is that if the bid is for less than $25,000, then we don't go out for bid. We go out for bid when it's $25,000 or up. Now, of course, as Dr. Huffman has mentioned, just stated, we do get multiple proposals whenever we do something for some type of substantial dollar amount. But as long as it's not $25,000, then we don't go to a formal bid process. We additionally did $13,000 worth of carpet across the central office, and again, since that was below the $25,000 bid, we didn't go to a formal bid, but they did get multiple estimates on that. So as far as what's going on in the district, we are indeed, once again, we've approved half of the summer projects. We'll be looking to approve the rest of the summer projects, about $3.7 million of summer projects, again tonight. To put that in perspective of what we've done in the past, last year we spent over $4 million. We spent just $4.1 million, just under $4.1 million in our summer projects a year ago. We spent about $1.5 million the year before that. We've been ramping up our summer projects a little bit in preparation to do some of the other things, the other building construction that's gone on as well. Every year we have summer projects here in the district. I've been on this board for 10 years now. Every year we've had summer projects that we've looked at that we have to do, whether it's replacing HVAC or doing something with the HVAC, it's replacing boilers, it's replacing other things that take normal maintenance in the buildings. Asbestos abatement, we've had to do that before as well. Some of these buildings are pretty old. Some of them are even landmarked. Roofing can be quite expensive. And so every year we have these summer projects. As we look at this stuff, finally on the all-day kindergarten, I want to just address that briefly. In the spring of 2006, it was 2003, 2004. In the fall of 2004, I moved back here. I had been living around the country for a few years. I grew up here. I see one of my classmates right here in the room, a couple of them, from when we were much younger. And so we moved away, after I got out of college, and then we moved back with our young family in 2004. And in 2005, I worked on a referendum for this district that this district passed in the spring of 2006 by a 2/3 vote. It was 2/3 to 1/3. That thing passed by a landslide. And for McHenry and past referendums, having seen those, back and forth, if they ever pass, they pass pretty close. They don't pass by a 2/3 landslide. on the conclusion of that, then I was not on the school board at that point in time. I do recall, though, going to Dr. Hoffman in one of his early years and saying to him, you've got the money, you better spend it wisely. And then they put together a strategic planning committee in the summer of 2006. And I sat on that, and it was a pretty broad-based group. There were a lot of people from the community that were involved in that. There was city council members, there were teachers, there was parents, there were older, the mayor, Mayor Lau was on there. It was quite the super committee that put together a long-term strategic plan for what it was that the district wanted to accomplish. And there was a lot of things on there. The revised version of that was revised about 4 years ago. It can be found on our district website. As a part of that strategic plan, one of the things that came out from that point in time in 2006 was that if it was feasible, we wanted to go to all-day kindergarten. Now, this is 10 years ago, what we wanted to do. We've been talking about this. Educationally, I'm not an education expert. I can only speak from a common sense standpoint. It does seem that if you're going to be there all day and you're going to have them, twice the amount of time, they would be better off. They'll be better off educationally. I'm not the educational expert. I can't speak to that piece of it. What I can speak to is that as a district, we've been talking about that. We started talking about doing it then. We talked about it again in 2000 when we redid the strategic plan about 4 years ago, and that was still in there strategically possible. And then 2014, when we approved our master plan, we proposed a master plan to do building expansion, replace mobiles, and to put the additional classrooms in for all-day kindergarten. Well, one of the possibilities was to use that for all-day kindergarten, to put us in footing to be able to have that in place should we decide that that's a direction we wanted to go. Now, that's what we continue to do. We continue to be doing our building expansions across the district. We've been putting that money that we've had, various funds, towards that purpose. We've been spreading it out over multiple periods of time so we can use the money that we have. We're running a deficit right now out of our fund balances of about $9 million. That's the number for this year, that we're running a deficit. That's a one-time deficit because that's a construction deficit. Fund balances, we're spending down some of our fund balances to do that, and we're doing something that's relatively unheard of in districts in the area, and that is that we're doing our building expansion without having to go to referendum, without having to ask the taxpayers for more money. We've been using the existing money that we've had. We've stayed within our levy. Our levy went up by 0.7% last year. 0.8, I'm sorry, to reverse that. The CPI for next year looks at 0.7%, and if the levy goes down in the past, it'll go up by 0.7% next year. We've stayed within the PTEL requirements. We've stayed within what state law dictates, and we've used those funds to go back and forth to make sure that we're managing accordingly within state law, but also by keeping the promise that I made to my friends and neighbors when I ran for school board, that we were going to run within our means. We were not going to exceed our means. We were never, that referendum that was passed in 2006 was originally budgeted out to last maybe 8-10 years, and then they were going to start to have the deficit spend. We have not deficit spend operationally. Now we're doing it right now because we're doing construction. We're pouring a lot of money. We're going to probably pour $14-15 million back into the community in the form of construction as a result of that. But we haven't gone to referendum for any of that stuff. And that's what we had promised the taxpayers 10 years ago. That's what I promised my friends and neighbors when I first came on the school board 10 years ago. And as long as I'm the finance chair, we will not have a budget that runs in the red operationally, because that's just not, I'm an accountant, and that's bad business.
Also wanted to mention part of that strategic planning process is we deferred bonds. That's what that strategic planning group advised the board to do. And when we did that, that created a fund balance in our capital projects exceeding around $11-12 million. We didn't touch that money because as soon as we had that money there, the state's budget went completely broke. And so everyone was afraid to spend any money. We were afraid to spend money. And a little history lesson, we had Thatcher Meadows coming in, which abuts Valley View Elementary School, and that's going to bring 3,700 homes, maybe 15, 17, 18,000 kids, all of which would come to our schools. So initially, we're thinking, uh-oh, we better be ready to build something very, very quickly. So we socked that money away for that possible purpose. But we worked collaboratively with our neighbors at District 36 in Wonder Lake, and they decided that they would like to have those children. They worked out a deal with the developer that promised to build them a school if enough children came. And so that did not become necessary for us. And then we were in a period of uncertainty for years and years with the state budget of Illinois, not making their payments, skipping their payments. So we were conservative in our spending as much as a lot of us, and Pat will tell you, for 10 years he waited for us to be able to expand our buildings because he knew that would improve the quality of education in our district. And that we were the leader in the number of mobile units, and that's a polite word, they're really trailers. 21 trailers, I believe it was, in our school district, and now we're eliminating all of them, which we're thrilled to do. Students deserve to be educated in optimum learning environments, so we've been able to do that. So I just wanted to touch on that. We're not over-levying because our overall project is something like $14 million. It'd be hard to over-levy in those other accounts to create that amount of money. So the money was set aside through the refinancing plans.
Yeah,
Deferring
the mobile classrooms have long exceeded their useful life. We're well past that. They need to be replaced. So it was time, we need to do building expansion just to replace those alone. Or we could have gone the other route, and we could have just replaced them with newer mobile classrooms.
And I'm not even sure the state would have approved that. Every year I had to create a document that indicates our long-range plan to get out of mobile units. And I made up that plan for like 10 years in a row. And I think they got tired of seeing this plan of how we're going to get out of it. Some of these mobiles were so poor when we tried to move them, they just disintegrated. They were past their prime, so thrilled to have them gone. And as you come in from the west, you won't see 7 mobiles at Valley View. You'll be greeted with a brand new wing in Valley View. So.
Can I
I
have
have a couple of things to respond to you, Pat. That 2.2 number,
Yeah.
you take everything that's in the blueprints and you look at the estimates from January and you add them up, you end up with 2.2 million. If you take what's on the list of what we're actually doing now, these yellow lists, the total you come up with is 1.28 based on the estimates that we were given back in January. So since January, the costs have gone up by 300% for those same projects. I've got the list from January right here.
The summer project list that we received in November looks just like this, and it totals $6.3 million.
I've got it in the committee meeting from January 26th. Yes, but we're not doing all those projects.
We're doing 7 of those. We're not. The $6.3 million came in at $5.5 million. It's difficult to know what the cost of total individual projects are going to be because we didn't bid them out
Well, if you look
by
at
project. Instead, we
total
built those projects, bid those projects out by discipline.
By trade.
So, for example, the asphalt paving, instead of bidding out asphalt paving for the STEM projects at MMS and Parkland and the emergency access road for Valley View and the parking lot for Landmark and the transportation grading, we bid out one asphalt paving project for all of them. And as a result, we came in, there were 3 people that submitted bids. One submitted a bid for all that for $287,000. One of them submitted a bid for $198,000. And the one we took came in with a bid, Chicagoland Paving, for $94,200. So it was because we bid it out opposite of project. Instead of bidding out by project, we bid it out by discipline. We were able to generate a substantial cost savings across all the projects.
But if you take the project list, the estimates, you add up gym floor replacement at Valley View, parking lot at Valley View, STEM lab at Parklands, add up each of the projects that we're doing, you end up with an estimated cost of 1.2 million.
Can I see that? I thought you said it was 2.2 million.
Well, that's when we were doing everything in the blueprints. Some of those have been removed on this sheet. This sheet doesn't include all.
Can I see what you have there?
Yeah, that's the list from January. The ones with the pencil mark next to them are the ones that we're doing.
All right.
And for the all-day kindergarten, if we are going to do all-day kindergarten, we should be coming up with a plan, presenting it to the public, getting the public input, and getting that on the books that that's what we're doing before we're building 5 or 6 classrooms at each school house program that doesn't exist, that might exist in the future. And the painting, if you look at the bid there on Riverwood, it says $5,000, doesn't say what it's for. Yet in the bills that we're supposed to be approving, we've got painting at Riverwood for $26,975, and we've got painting, this one doesn't say where it's at, it's $22,625. The transportation building, the interior was painted over spring break. So there is painting for that building listed on that sheet. So that was my assumption, was that those were the same project.
Well, I don't know the sheet, but all I can say is, when we gave the list, we were estimating over $6 million total.
Okay, and the projects that we're getting for the 3.8 million are what we're estimated at 1.2 million.
Well, Mark, actually, your project list does have the $6.3 million in it. I don't think you're picking up all the things that we have relative to it, though, correctly with your pencil marks. So without having gone through all these things and figuring out which pencil marks we did and which pencil
Well,
marks we
they're
didn't.
listed on the sheet here, the yellow sheet.
Right, but they're not here they're listed by discipline, they're not listed
On the right-hand
by,
side.
they're listed by discipline.
On the
here.
right-hand side, site-associated work.
I
tells which project,
understand that,
which school.
but it
let
doesn't,
me-
but for example, the MMS and Parkland STEM project, so how much is the MMS and Parkland STEM project going to cost? We don't know that because portion of the paving,
That's why I'm
the asphalt
separating out
paving,
the cost per project, I don't know which project's over.
that's what I just said,
I
that,
don't know which of the projects is over, but I can tell you that what we were given as the estimate was $1.2 million, almost $1.3 million. And
Maybe I can clear this up. We worked with Archon, who is our architect, has been for years. We also work with Nicholas, and in tandem, they conduct the bids for us, the bid packages. So they monitor those bids, they try to bid them out timing-wise so we get the best dollar. They also try to group the work together to get the best dollar. We have Bill Straits here from Archon, and I think I asked him this at the committee meeting, but in all the bids we've done, have we generally been according to budget or have we been below?
Well, we've been under budget. And what happens is, as we package these things to really get the biggest bang for the school district buck, there's crossover from an original, and I'm not sure specifically what the discussion is, but there's crossover from what we thought we might do 4 years ago to when we begin to package the things. So that might explain some of that. But what happens is, once we get the scope, and referring to this, these projects that are going to be addressed by the board tonight, once we get the scope, we look at the square footages, we look at the cost from several different perspectives, and then we come up with a budget along with the construction manager. The bids came in under budget for these specific projects, so that we're very pleased about that. The reason, and that's why we package them the way we do, and that's why the timing of the bids is what it is, so that we can really maximize the district's buying power for these projects and past ones, and that's, our approach will be the same for future ones as well.
And isn't it true that if and when, we haven't had this occur, but if we had a bid come in way over, like 300% over, we would be rejecting that bid?
Absolutely. So it doesn't get awarded, but we look at it, you know, and again, fortunately, this has not been something that we've had to address, but in situations where that would happen, we would look at why that is, and then we would look at it and work out some sort of a plan with the district as to, does it get deferred, or do we trim it back, or what do we do? But as I stated, fortunately, we have not had that situation for these projects.
The projects that we're doing are not all of the projects on that list for the $6.whatever million. The projects that we're doing on that list cost a total of $1.3 million. So it came in almost 3 times the price for what we were told back in January it would be. And yes, it's a smaller total amount, but it's a lot less work being done than what we were told we'd get back in January for the 6.8.
Any other comments from the board before we close the hearing? Can I have a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close.
Is there a second?
Second.
No, that's in public comment.
Okay.
Mr. Hederman?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
yes.
Mrs. Qualls?
Yes.
Mr. Sanopadre?
Yes.
Mr. Syverson?
No.
Mrs. Geyer?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to call to order the April 26th Conroe School District 15 Board of Education meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Me too, ma'am.
Mrs. Geyer, would you please read us in the pledge this evening?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on to public comments. Dr. Wright, could you? Okay, so we have a number of people who would like to speak this evening. Just a reminder that our board policy says you have about 5 minutes to speak per person. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that. I am interested to hear in what everyone has to say. So is it Marjorie Lulo?
Margie Lulo, yes. I made a note on my Facebook page that I might be stirring the pot or going into a hornet's nest. So we'll see which one it is. Before I start, quick question. Was there a bid for the Riverwood murals to the Board of Education? To the board? Did you, to be painted over? Did you all see a bid?
It was overall the
That's
Riverwood
part of
project,
it.
correct?
Yeah.
The drawings for the Riverwood
for-
project make no mention.
Really, we're interested in public comments and what you have to say. We
Well, I'm
typically
just
don't
wondering-
interact, so
well-
I'd like to hear what you have to say.
This is what I'm going- Okay. For those who don't know me, I am basically an old-time Riverwood mom. My 2 daughters, now in their 20s, went to Riverwood from kindergarten on, and I now have a 10-year-old son who also attends. Unless we move, we'll be with District 15 for another 4 years. Our experiences with the district have always been a positive one until now. Many of us know and understand change can and is sometimes difficult and oftentimes necessary. For example, updating building structures and adding technology to keep up with the present times. But where change comes as a complete shock, it can be very disturbing. Which brings me to the repainting of Riverwood. Not only were the blaring white walls shocking to staff and the parents, but the students as well. Comparing it to a prison, an institution, and a hospital. Not at all a welcoming atmosphere. Hardly any community notice was given. In fact, the students were notified the Friday that was the last day before spring break. Which brings me to this. Can someone please tell me what is the function of the school board? Is it to look out for the community's best interest? Is it to approve all outside work, bids, and payments before work had actually started? This work was supposed to happen during the summer. Why would someone paint a school before all construction was even remotely finished? Was saving any of the murals even considered? There have been questions raised regarding copyright infringement. There were none. This was all looked into before the murals were painted. The volunteers were not paid to paint, nor was the school making any money by painting these murals. In fact, one of the authors wanted photos upon completion, and were honored to be part of a project that encouraged children to read a book. With all this said, I'm wondering what else has been done and or completed with or without the board's knowledge, without the proper protocol followed, and who is ultimately responsible.
Thank you for your comments. Mrs. Jerry Condon.
I'm going to stand back in the corner because I don't like talking with my back to people. Some of you know me. I first want to just state that I am here as a former parent of District 15, specifically Riverwood, and not in any official capacity as an elected official. I wanted to speak specifically, as Margie just did, about the murals at Riverwood. And the reason that I'm here is because I have a long history with District 15, been very supportive. Pat mentioned the referendums. I was actually the chairperson for those referendums, unfortunately, except for the last one that finally passed. But my heart has been with District 15, and even though I don't have children in this district anymore, it doesn't mean that I don't pay attention and feel an obligation to support the school system because I have had 3 children who have gone through District 15 and District 156 now. So anyway, back to when the murals came about. I was PTO president. The original principal, Dr. DeRoshi, had approached me as PTO president and had asked me if she thought that the PTO would be willing to pay for the paint, and knowing that myself, Margie, and a handful of other parents were artistic, if we would be interested. Originally the discussion was, would we be interested in paying for someone to come in and paint some murals? And I said, we don't need that. We've got talent right here, and we're free. Great. So I said, but I brought it before the PTO. I asked for the funding to do the painting and got full support. So we spent about the entire year. I will tell you that I worked for the first few months and then I had to back out because I had other obligations. I'm working on a referendum, I bet. But anyway, I was one of the very first. If any of you have noticed before the lightning bugs on the ceiling over at Riverwood, yeah, I still get a neck ache from painting up on a ladder, upside down, painting those. We did all of it by hand. We put love and tender care into that. We didn't do it for us. Actually, my name was painted, but it was up in the corner along with a couple others, Lori Masick and Lori and Margie, yeah. So, because we figured after we painted upside down doing those lightning bugs that we deserved to have a little credit there. But we didn't want attention, so we put it upside down where nobody saw it, but we wanted to leave our mark. We didn't leave it there for you. Well, you guys weren't here, but, and I used to come to this board all the time, and I don't even, I suppose Dr. Hoffman was there.
In the early years.
Yeah, but the faces have changed. But anyway, so we painted and we did it for the love of the kids. And I cannot describe to you the joy that those kids got when they saw those walls coming to life. They'd walk by and they'd be like, what are you painting today? You know, and each hall had an author, as I hope you know, and we would paint the murals from the books that they were reading, and oh my gosh, they couldn't wait to go home and read those books. They couldn't wait to be in their classroom to have their teachers read or them read those books. It brought reading to life. I'm telling you, that was one of the greatest joys that I've ever got, seeing those little kids go by and watching us paint and seeing the end result. I do want to address the copyright, because one of the things, as an artist myself, I do know, and Lori Masick, who originally helped with contacting the authors, so there was never a copyright issue because we did contact the authors asking for an okay to do that, but because we were not getting paid for that, there was no copyright issue. So I just wanted to be clear about that. So then, fast forward a number of years, they were coated so that, you know, they couldn't, the paint wouldn't chip off and it wouldn't break. And years went by and the school needed to be painted, and there was yellowing from the glaze that we put over it. And we heard about that, and a bunch of us went to the PTO, and we begged and pleaded for them to paint around it. We even offered to come back. Most of us didn't even have children at Riverwood anymore, to paint around it, and they said no, they didn't want us to do that, they'd just go around it, and so it was preserved for years after that. I can't tell you what year that was.
It was, well,
doesn't matter. So the walls had been painted since then. So I got a call from Margie saying that it was gone. It was just gone. And the reason I'm here, it's gone. There's nothing I think can be done about it. But I just wanted each of you to understand how disappointed I am that you, I think, really did a disservice to the kids at Riverwood. And that learning environment is like a hospital now, not like a school that they loved. Now, I'm sure you'll do things that will make it bright again. I certainly hope so, and I ask that you would. But I'm very disappointed that you didn't even have the courtesy to contact us. And I know that there's a record that it was us. To be quite honest, Kathy Robinson is my next door neighbor, and she knows I painted it. So there's no way that there couldn't have been a contact. And I'm very disappointed that you didn't let us know so that we could walk through and see that. And have a goodbye to those pictures and tell the kids that we're glad that they enjoyed it while they were there. That said, I am very glad that with the work that you guys are doing and getting rid of those mobiles and doing it in a financial manner. I think all of that is great, but again, very disappointed about the murals. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Amanda, help me with your last name.
Stedman. My name is Amanda. I have a first grader, Wyatt, who goes to Hilltop Elementary. For the last 4 months, we've been dealing between the school and recently the district in regards to some major bullying issues that are going on with my son.
And it's pretty much all on the bus. I'm Heather, I'm after her, I'm having the same problem.
And our kids are being pretty much punished and going through consequences because of this bullying. My son was physically attacked actually it was January 13th. Some kid whipped an ice ball at his face. He actually had to go to the doctor. He was swollen and taken out of school for an entire day. And recently we've had to pull him out of school because he's vomiting. He doesn't want to go to school. It's making him so sick, he vomits. And this is all going on at the bus stop, on the bus. And my son was given assigned seating because of the bullying. Not the bullies, but my son. So he was punished because he's being bullied. And it just seems like everything is going down on my son when he is being the victim. Son's not perfect, nobody's child is. But when we ask questions, we get the runaround, especially from the school. We've just recently gotten in touch with the district. It's not helping right now. Her son is now getting bullied by the exact same children. We took our kids off the bus today. One child, as soon as the bus doors opened, the child's name was being screamed because he wouldn't let people off the bus. It's an ongoing issue. We have no resources as far as parenting as what are our steps when it comes to bullying.
My son is in kindergarten and is to the point where he's pulling out with his hair. He's 6 years old.
And the principal over at the school, back when the incident happened in January with my son, promised myself and my fiance that she would be making trips randomly to the bus stop to hopefully get the kids to stay in line because they never know when she's going to show up. She's never shown up. I've asked my son, I've asked other parents, has she ever come back? We are in April and she has never come back. This issue is still going and she never upheld her promise. Transportation's been made aware of all of the issues going on with the school bus. She called yesterday.
Yeah, my son was being punched in the penis by one of the bullies.
And then I called today because of an exposure issue where the children were pulling their pants down on the bus. And both times we called, transportation is well aware of these issues going on the bus. And I got the response from one of the people I spoke to, you have to be kidding me, when I told her the bus route. We are having major problems on this bus route. We are now in April at the end of the year, and if they knew that they were having major issues on this bus route, why are we at the end of the school year and nothing has been resolved? Nothing has come to a close. I don't want my son going to Hilltop next year. I believe I will be looking into different options because this is not working for us. My 6-year-old is afraid to ride the bus. He's afraid to go to school. He does not want to go to school. He is in 1st grade. It is not right to have a child 6 years old not wanting to go to school. It is not right to have to take my son to the doctor because an ice ball was whipped at his face. And I did observe the ice ball getting whipped at his face because we were made aware of the bullying and we wanted to see, was my son involved in it? Did he start it? No, he was tripped, got up, tripped again, and got an ice ball whipped in his face while he was trying to get up by a 10-year-old. It's gotten to the point, at this point, I have gotten the cops involved because I cannot get a resolve.
Twice. Because one
I have
was
2
also
police
punching
reports.
him in the back of the head. One of the same boys was punching her son in the back of the head. Last week.
And we found out from another parent earlier this week, I believe it was just yesterday, there are no resources. He didn't know that there were tapes on a bus. Something happened with his daughter. And he didn't know things were taped on a bus. He didn't know what steps to follow. Parents are not aware of what to do when their kids are being bullied. We have no recourse. The school tells me you can't go to the parents, you shouldn't go to the parents. You know, Why not? Why can't I go to the parents? If this is not being resolved through the school, why can't I go to the parents?
It
Because
should be
that's
resolved through the
my
school, that's the
child.
problem.
And again, my kid's getting the consequences by having assigned seating on the bus, and it's still not solving the issue. He's still got picked on. And why is my son in assigned seating, and why are those kids not sitting right behind the bus driver so she can keep an eye on him?
Why are they on the bus at all? If they're terrorizing other kids, why are they still on the bus?
And then the other issue I keep getting from the assistant principal over at the school is, we can't tell you what steps have been
Yeah,
taken.
we legally can't tell you anything.
I don't
That's all
care
we
if you
can
don't tell me anything, but I want to know. We talk to these kids' parents. I don't give a toss what was talked to with these kids' parents, but as long as I know the school is doing something and that something is being done about this other than we'll handle it. We're not sweeping it under the rug. We'll
Yeah.
handle it. I've heard we'll handle it so many times, I never want to hear that phrase in my life again because they're not handling it. And
Yeah, it's
their
the same
procedures are
bullies.
not working.
It's the same 3 kids that hurt her son in January that are now hurting my son now. So it wasn't handled.
So there needs to be more resources for a parent. I
Extra
believe,
adults on the bus.
yeah, and then
Anything.
we need to know what the procedures are for bullying because
Mhm.
why are these kids on the bus? Why are they in school? We don't know the procedures. I mean, is it 30 steps before they actually get taken off the bus and that 30 steps takes the entire year so they get to start all over again the next year? Do our sons have to come back to this next year?
I've actually been told by 2 other mothers, I was told this morning, that these same kids were doing the same thing last year. So they were doing it last year, they're doing it this year, now what's gonna happen next year?
You know, well, I've got a neighbor whose daughter is about to go into Hilltop, lives right across the hall from me. I told her, you can find a different school. I would. She doesn't want her daughter in this school. I've told her, I have vented to her because I come home crying. I take my son to the bus stop and I come home crying because he's crying going on the bus. And I have to vent to her because I'm home alone during the day. And she asked me today, she said, has anything been resolved? I said, no, actually it's getting worse at this point. Her son is being dragged into it. The day after the principal talked to the 2 bullies, with my son standing right there, which is out of line. My son should not be having to confront his bullies in such a capacity that they pick on him the next day. He was retaliated against the next day because he was made to go face to face with them. Yes, at some point he does need to face his fears, his bullies. He has to stand up to himself, but he's 6 years old. He doesn't need to do that right now. That's what I'm here for. That's what she's here for, and that's what the school's supposed to be here for.
Dr. Wright, are you involved in this at all?
I spoke with Mrs. Stedman, was it last Thursday?
Yes.
And this is the first time I was aware of it. However, in that time, I think we communicated with a couple of the schools, because this involves a bus stop with a couple of schools. I followed up Friday, just to kind of see if those individuals from the school had talked to you. So, first off, I'm sorry that this is going on. We don't want this of any of our kids and any of our parents. I think there's some things that we can still do to help. Perhaps now, we spoke on the phone, perhaps now if you guys want to, I could give you my card and we could come in and sit down and talk and develop a plan together because I certainly want to help.
Well, and my biggest issue right now is Friday when my son got off the bus, a little girl told me that he was punched in the head. I unfortunately had to work that evening, so I couldn't take any kind of action. So I went to the police the next day. Not only did they call Bradley's parents into the police department or speak with the parents, he called me the very next day, I want to say before like 8:30 in the morning, to let me know, you have any more problems, you call me, but you should not have any more problems. And I told the police officer, I said, anytime something happens, I will be coming to you because this was resolved in one day. And as far as I know, no other incidents have happened. Granted, it's Tuesday, but the parents were brought into the police station. And that is what I've had to do. I've gone to the school, I just started with the district, but at this point, I've had it.
I don't blame you. So I'm going to encourage you to work with Dr. Wrights. And if you get nowhere with Dr. Wrights, which I will doubt, I would encourage you to come back and talk with us. But I think that Dr. Wright certainly can help write this.
Well, and in the meantime, parents need resources. We need to know what to do. When the school's not helpful, what's our next step?
Yeah.
Where do we go next?
Our
And at what
only
point does
answer
this
was
stop?
legally, I can't tell you anything. Legally, I can't tell you anything. That's what I was told 4 times today. And even, what is her name? Assistant principal.
Queedack?
Queedack? Yeah, Mrs.
Queedack.
Queedack at Hilltop. when I told her my son's name and I told her what happened on the bus yesterday, she told me, oh yeah, he's been having problems with these boys for a while.
I'm convinced that if you work with Dr. Wrights, that he can guide you through this and really help. And if you get no resolution from Dr. Wrights, please do come back. We apologize. No child should go through this ever.
Especially so young.
Yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And we have Chuck. I can't read the last name. Wheeler.
Horrible handwriting. Didn't take my penmanship.
Oh, no.
In school. First of all, I want to thank you all for serving in your capacity with the county board, with the school district. I'm sorry your mind is going off. And I do appreciate what you do here, and I realize the endless countless hours that you put, especially you on the finance committee, and what you're going through. I just wanted to come and just ask, maybe ask a question. Maybe I could get an answer. If not, I don't understand. But I just was wondering if a citizen has a question regarding the financial situation of the district, and especially about the agenda matters that are upcoming on the agenda, is it possible, or is there somewhere where we can go, where we can actually download the packet that you as the board members have? I only say that because, speaking as someone on the county board, all of our agendas are public record. Everything that we are voting on, anyone in the audience can see what those matters are. And they can ask intelligent questions and not have to wait until the hearing is over and then public comment is done. Because the way you have your meeting structured, it's like the public comment will come and then, you know, the business will be done, and therefore the issue will be resolved before any members from the public can comment to you. Because I know that you want to hear what the public says. And I know you want to make your good decisions here on the board. And I'm coming to you as just a resident. I'm not a parent with a child in the school. I'm a taxpayer. And I want to say one thing about that. Taxpayers are very important factors in your governance. And we are watching. All of us are watching. Because living here in McHenry County, taxes are growing at an exponential rate. And we can no longer afford to just go on and say, oh, well, the money is there. We don't have to worry about it. It was already there. No, we look on the county level to cut expenses, even if it's within the budget, because we realize that we're here representing the taxpayers. And you are a much larger portion of our tax bill. So you have to be a watchdog for that component. And I would appreciate and implore you to all look at that as well. I know that the children are important, but the children won't have a future if we don't have the school system. Thank you.
Chuck, I know we typically don't respond, but I am going to tell you that you, at any time, if you have questions regarding finance, curriculum, any of that, you certainly can call Dr. Hoffman, and he will happily answer any questions that you have. The board agendas and packets are, where are they?
They're on the website.
They're on the website.
The agenda's there, the packet's not.
The packet is there.
No, the individual bill, because the packet is made up mostly of individual invoices, and so the invoices aren't on there. It would be, well, it's...
And any of the resolutions and anything that's in here,
It's,
none of that's out there.
that big.
The thing is, our just to, not to cross conversation, but basically, our agendas are 400, 600 pages long, okay? It's all digital. It's not, it saves you money to have it, because I could make a request as a Freedom of Information Act to have all that, and your guy would be spending all the time copying that, trust me, I know, and getting it and delivering it so that we have it. And if multiple people request it, you would have multiple Freedom of Information. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I'm not saying that that's what everyone here is going to do, although they are perfectly have that perfect right as a citizen to request that information of you. I'm asking you that you think ahead and put it on the website, save yourself some money, and step forward and be transparent.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you.
I have a Steve on here, but no address or topic. Steve,
I'm
what's
Steve.
your last name?
I'm Steve, I'm a taxpayer in McHenry. That's all you need to know.
The reason why we ask for your last name and your address is because typically we don't respond to public comment in the meeting. And what will happen is the administration will reach back out to you and send you reach back out to you with a response. So if you're okay with the fact that we're not going to typically respond to you with whatever your comments are, because you're not going to give us the place to do that, then that's fine. I just want you to be aware.
Transparency should be to all citizens. Any
Okay,
question
Steve.
you might ask
You can certainly call us
to me,
tomorrow.
so you can put it on your website, any answers that you might have for me personally. Okay, I guess one of my biggest concerns here is that over and over again, when someone says it's not about the money, it's usually about the money. When someone says over and over again, we don't over levy, but we have money for expansion without a referendum. The truth is obvious, and you're not fooling anybody.
Ordinarily, I don't interject, but you did hear that we deferred bonds and that created about $12 million, the majority of it.
Sure, so
that's
free
that's
money.
nothing.
None of that surplus was in the transportation
Okay.
budget, though.
I just wanted to
Would
make
you
sure.
let-
you understood. Sorry.
Steve, the taxpayer, speak.
Go ahead.
So just, I would like to reiterate, transparency is the biggest issue here. This shouldn't be something that we have to FOIA. This shouldn't be something that, if there's invoices, believe me, we can page through them online. It's not a burden to us to have it there for us. We shouldn't have to not even know what to say in a public comment because we don't have any information to comment on. That shouldn't be our concern. That should be your concern. I guess that's all I have to say. The transparency and the lack and the skirting around the referendum through the use of over levying. Let's call it what it is.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I want to thank all of you who spoke.
Yeah, I want to speak as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sure.
Eric Dowd, 3212 Still Hill Drive, McHenry. I've got a question. How old is the strategic plan?
4 years old.
4 years old. Are we familiar with
I believe that to be the case. Is that right?
I think it was updated 4 years ago.
Do we know what goal number 3 is?
Off the top of my head, no.
I'll tell you.
I think it's safety and security.
The district will increase communication
Oh,
with parents and taxpayers via community newsletters and technological media. My question is, the camera that's here, where did that come from?
It's not ours.
It's not yours, right? My question is, why isn't it? Why isn't it? We have staff that can be here running a camera, but we don't. We choose not to make these meetings public. There's no reason why a private citizen had to take money out of their own pocket and put them up on a website. Please don't laugh.
I'm not laughing.
How'd you know I was talking to you?
Your time's ticking here.
You were laughing.
You were laughing. President of the board?
Let's go.
President of the board. So my question is, why can't we have these agenda packets on, why can't we have this stuff on a website? Why can every meeting of this public body not be put on a website? It's cheap, put it on YouTube. You can buy a camera for $50, everybody's got one in their phone. Somebody record it and put it on YouTube. This is ridiculous. The secrecy, the snarling, and the humor that we get out of this stuff, I'm glad. How many years you got left to collect your sweet pension? You're a principal in another school, aren't you? Yeah. So you're going to do well.
Are you done, Mr. Dowd?
I am.
Okay, we're moving on to consent items. Mr. Syverson, is there something you'd like
I
to
would
say?
like to remain B, C, and E.
B, C, and E.
Yes.
Can I have a motion to approve A, D, and F from the consent items, please?
A motion to approve it.
I will second it.
Roll call.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Pauls?
Yes.
Mr. Sanopadre?
Yes.
Mr. Syverson?
Yes.
Mrs. Geyer?
Yes.
Mr. Hederman?
Yes.
Okay, Eric?
On the financial reports, There were a couple of things that I wanted to point out before we go to approve them. One was the painting, the $49,600 for painting. That was never brought to the board still has not seen bids for. We also, there's a company called Sound Inc. that we're replacing a bunch of the sound system. I talked to Dr. Hoffman, apparently at MMS, wireless microphones and stuff. We're spending just over $50,000 on that this month. That also wasn't brought to the board. We already talked about the carpet, which I don't know exactly how many square feet we have in here. I was estimating not more than 5,000. That puts it at $24 per square foot for carpeting. That's more than twice what you would normally estimate for commercial carpeting. And those were the ones that I wanted to point out.
I can respond to the Sound Inc. It's a company we work with at both Parkland and McHenry Middle School as far as speakers and microphones. From time to time, we have to update those things. There's certain categories that don't go out to bid, but we do get proposals, technologies, and all those pieces that we do. And so what they've done is tried to make sure that we have the microphones that work, especially with graduation coming up soon. We want to make sure that happens.
But it wasn't brought to the board. And also wanted to point out that we paid $380,000 to Archon this month.
Okay, anything else, Eric?
That's it for that one.
Okay. Going to Z.
Do we want to vote on that one first?
Do we want to make a motion?
Is there a motion to approve the financial reports?
Move to approve the financial reports.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Pauls?
Yes.
Mr. Sanopadre?
Yes.
Mr. Syverson?
No.
Mrs. Geyer?
Yes.
Mr. Hatterman?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Okay, C, recommendation for the transfer of funds. Here.
Do we have a motion on it? Because discussion should come after the motion.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
So that one, we're,
You need a second first, Eric.
Is there a second? Letterman?
so we're moving funds from the transportation fund, which those funds were not created by deferring bonds. Those were created by over levying. When we get the budget every year, we see how much we are planning to over levy. This past year it was about 5%. With our plan to over levy, we shouldn't be amassing funds that way. We should be levying exactly what we need each year. And then if we need funds to do some extra project, we should be going to the public and asking for those funds. That's why the system is set up the way it is. We should be getting permission from the public before we're building $14 million worth of buildings, plus an extra, this year an extra $4 million, plus however many extra millions we add every year in between. And that's why the system is the way it is. And we're doing the bare minimum to stay legal. Yes, we can legally do that, but we shouldn't.
Any other discussion?
We approved, I believe the building expansion and the intent to get out of mobiles was first passed. It first came out of the original strategic plan in 2006. It was carried forward again in 2000, 4 years ago when we reevaluated that. We've been, as Dr. Hoffman said earlier, from a building expansion standpoint, we've been looking to do this building expansion, which is why we deferred those bonds, and replace, and more importantly, replace all those mobiles, which is why we deferred those bonds. 10 years ago, that has been nothing new. The intent was not to go. And that came out of that community thing. Yeah, could we go to a referendum? We could, but going to a referendum is an expensive process for the district. It's an expensive process for the taxpayer, and it's just foolish if you don't have to do it. And so doing it, we philosophically and fundamentally agree to disagree on that area. When I'm home or in my business, we budget for things, we spend accordingly, we live within our means. The district has done that over the last 10 years. We have lived within our means, and we continue to do so.
If we lived within our means, we'd be taking 5% less a year and still finding a way to do the things that need to be done.
I did want to mention, though, that we had meetings at each and every one of the schools in the evening to ask parents and community members to come and provide feedback as to what we were planning, which was helpful because it changed our planning that was recommended to the board. So what's community involvement in terms of what we were going to do and how we were going to go about it?
One final thing on this. We've all been elected to represent the community. Presumably the community knows what they're voting for when they vote for us because they have talked to us. I know that the number of people that have voted for me, the number of people that I know in town that I grew up with certainly know me. Friends, parents, they certainly know me. And they'll have an opportunity in another 6 months to make a decision on whether or not they agree with what we talked about or not. But they've elected us to represent them. And it's been discussed amongst all the representatives, and you've lost on this, a 6-to-1 vote as far as going on. So your fellow representatives disagree with you on the approach that the district is taking. Now, you have an opportunity to go ahead in another year, in another 9 months, to go ahead and find other representatives who agree with you and disagree with us and disagree with the rest of the community. But that's not been the case to this point, sir.
Any other discussion on the recommendation to transfer funds? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Sanopadre?
Were we gonna do E?
No, we're doing
We have to vote on them separately.
Oh, okay, yes.
Mr. Syverson? Mrs. Geyer?
Yes.
Mr. Hederman?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Qualls?
Yes. Okay, the approval of bids district-wide additions, remodeling, paving, and summer projects. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Syverson?
Discussion on the motion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Syverson?
So on the bids, the cut down list, we are only doing several of the projects now. One of those projects is a STEM lab project that is also attached to a STEAM lab. I don't know if any of you know what our STEAM lab is going to be. Our STEAM lab is going to be a video broadcasting studio at each of our junior highs. The cost for the construction of those rooms, each of those rooms is $68,000. That's aside from the equipment that's going in those rooms. If we already decided it was too expensive to be videotaping meetings, and now we're building broadcasting studios, that seems kind of backwards. Those labs that are being built, the STEM lab in each school is going in the footprint of what is currently a classroom. We're really close to that, the one that bumped in the hallway out a little bit. So if we were truly just adding STEM labs, then we wouldn't have to go through all the major projects. It would be redecorating a room, putting in new furniture, which the cost of furniture, it looks like, is being omitted from this cost, which is really all we need to do the stated goal, but that is not the project that's happening.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I want to comment on the STEM labs a little bit. This is something unique in the district. It's something new. It's cutting edge. It will prepare our students for the 21st century, for jobs of the future, things that we don't even know about as of yet. What these science, technology,
Engineering and
engineering and mathematics. Thank you. It's cutting edge. The only school districts that are typically doing this are North Shore districts. Once again, this is something that we're doing as a district that is innovative, that's out in front. That only the top districts in the country actually do. We're doing it within our means. We're doing it within our levy. But again, we're not going to referendum. We're not deficit spending in order to do this stuff, to operational. The way they've got it set up from an operational the cost on this will be a one-time cost again to put these things in place. The operational cost going forward, because we're able to use our existing staff, there is no additional operational outlay for us in order to do this once we do it. And the contracts that we got on this, where's Fred? The contracts that we got on this long-term is incredibly advantageous to the district. It's not going to cost next to nothing because of the way that the licensing is set up going forward for software updates and technology updates that go along with it. So it's tremendously advantageous to the district. And it's something that we're real excited about. The administration is certainly very excited about it. They were jumping out of their seats to tell me about it. And as a community, as a board member, and as a community member, I'm not only excited about it, that we're doing this to provide this to the community, because the only district I think in the area that's even close to doing this is Crystal Lake, and I still hate those guys. But I'm probably a little bit jealous of it too, because like Jerry, I got one left, and he's only got a year and a half left, and then he'll be out of this. He'll be on to high school, and so none of my kids will actually get to take advantage of it. But for your kids, who are first graders and kindergartners, for your 10-year-old, this is exciting stuff that's coming along. We've already got some things in place with with the elementary buildings, the K-5 buildings, and this will be taken it to the next level in the 6 through 8 buildings, and it's exciting stuff that we're doing.
I do agree, the STEM lab is an excellent idea. It will be great for the students, but the project isn't just a STEM lab. There's all sorts of other stuff that's tacked onto it. The STEM labs are going in the footprint of what is already classrooms. We're very close to the footprint of what is already a classroom. We're bumping the hallway out a couple feet. The project is inflated, and it isn't just adding a STEM lab. I talked to Dr. Hoffman earlier today. The recurring costs are going to be only like $3,000. That's great for what we're getting. The problem is the project that goes with it isn't just a STEM lab.
It's also maximizing the library and media center as well. So it's maximizing the space. And I wanted to mention that we're doing this in all of our schools, actually. We've done this in all the elementary schools as well. Most recently, we did Riverwood. We'll be utilizing the interior of the building and putting up a glass roof over the center of that. So it'll be outstanding, knocking the wall out. It'll be unbelievable. You'll be thrilled, I think, when you see it. And we'll be doing all of that. That was sent home in a newsletter. Hopefully you got
Great
that.
idea, but I'm still, why did you paint if things weren't done?
Okay. But anyway, and I guess my point is your first graders will also be benefiting from these pre-STEM activities all along,
Yeah.
because it's a program we've been studying for over a year. Been meeting with teachers, utilizing our own staff, training our own staff, because we have problem-based learning teachers. We also have technology teachers. So we're utilizing their talents. We've met with a number of other school districts. We're utilizing the best practices. We work with Archon. If we're going to do this well, let's do it right. Let's not spend too much money, but let's do it right, because we only have one chance to do this. And I'll tell you, it'll be one of the finest programs that you'll see around in the state, because it holds together K through 8. And the culmination in our middle schools will be spectacular, and I hope the taxpayers, because I do believe that we have to take the opinion and understand the taxpayer burden that we have. And I think this is a great investment in our community. It's a great investment in our students. We hope those students grow up and get jobs, whether it's science, technology, engineering, manufacturing. We hope that they stay in McHenry. We feel like the program, the construction we put together has been responsible. We haven't tried to outspend our means. There's other things we'd love to do. We simply can't do them. But we also have given back a lot to the community in terms of this, because we heard what the community said they wanted us to do. We put this program together based on what the community had to say. And the majority, I think, of the businesses that we're working with are McHenry businesses. If they're not, they're in the area businesses. So it's been a boom for the community workforce as well.
Just one final thing on this. When we looked at the, because a couple of people have commented on it, as public, and then Eric brought it up again. When we looked at doing video and putting that out on the web, we weren't going to do it with a camera in the corner. We looked at putting video facilities in the buildings that we hold our board meetings. One of the things that we do as a community, as a school board, is every other board meeting, we have 2 board meetings a month. One board meeting, the second board meeting of the month is here in central office. And the first board meeting is at the various buildings across the entire district, because that's how we get out to the community. We get out and we go to where they're at. And that's where the parents typically show up. All due respect to the few that are here today, by and large, the parents show up when we show up in their building, and it's the parents in that building that show up. And they hear a little bit about what's going on. That's how we could reach out to them. When we looked at adding sound systems, so if we were going to do it, again, we were going to do it right. We would put a camera into those various learning centers, and we're going to have to put microphones in there. And we have 7 buildings plus this right here, central office, and so it would cost us $135,000. Eric made the point that we're doing this backwards, that we're putting STEM and STEAM technology in our school buildings for our students to use, instead of putting video facilities here in our buildings that only our school board meeting is going to use. Well, we've had it's great to see all you people here today, because typically when we have a school board meeting here at central office, there's 3 administrators that are sitting out there in the audience, and that's it. None of you are typically here, so I'm glad to see you guys here. But we weren't going to spend the money. We weren't going to spend the money in order to put 130. We're going to spend $135,000, and there's public comments over, fellas. We weren't gonna spend $135,000 in putting those things in our various buildings, so we could videotape and put those on the website, because we didn't want wanted to spend that money on the kids.
You also said you
So
had
that's what we,
technology too, so.
and,
Any other
those
discussion
are
with
due.
board members on the
No.
approval of bids?
It's already had a
We have a
second.
roll call.
Mr. Syverson?
Nope.
Mrs. Geyer?
Yes.
Mr. Hederman?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Pauls?
Yes.
Mr. Santo-Padre?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to new business, Dr. Hoffman.
Can I add something under new business first?
Okay.
Just listening to some of the comments today, I'd like to offer a suggestion. I think that there are things out there that could add to some transparency. One of the means to do that is board books. I know a lot of school boards use this program. I believe it's called Board Books, where it's kind of internet-based, the agendas, the information that's going to be in the meetings. I don't know costs or anything. I just know that I've used it to look at districts and their board meetings. So maybe the administration can, I don't know, take a look at it, maybe look at something for the fall over the summer. Again, if it's a reasonable amount. But I know that, I'm pretty sure it's called Board Books.
It's board docs.
Thanks. Okay, Dr. Hoffman, Superintendent's report.
Just to piggyback on that, we'll go ahead and bring something forward, do a little bit of research and bring that through our committees and see if the board would like to entertain. Great. Just a few brief items. I know folks have been here a long time and we certainly have better things to do sometimes in beautiful evenings like this. So thanks for being here. We had our Mortel Kiwanis Top Scholar Dinner recently at Parkland. That's where we congratulate the families and the students that have done the highest GPA, grade point average students in our districts throughout K through 8. So it's a wonderful evening, and their speakers, Dr. Wright spoke, I know the high school representatives spoke, welcoming them to bringing challenge to their careers at the high school, and hope they continue their vast success with District 15-156. So it's a wonderful evening. May 6th, coming up, is half a day for students, and we have staff development time for our staff. Teacher Appreciation Week begins May 2nd, and the board, as a reminder, provides treats for the entire staff to say thank you. So if they see you in the community, say thank you. Remember, you provided them treats. Our next board meeting is May 10th at Parkland. May 18th, it's hard to believe we had graduation for both of our middle schools, and I believe all of our board members have their assignments for schools they're attending. So, and I believe you'll have your parking pass as well. It's always very, very well attended. Hopefully, weather will be good. Our Education Foundation golf outing, the Bill Burke golf outing, will be held June 3rd at Boone Creek. So please come out, whether you play well or don't play well. It's a great way to raise money for the foundation that gives money back to kids, and it's great to be out in the community and supporting a local business at the same time. And Bill Burke, for those that may know him, was an assistant superintendent in our school district for many years, and then even came out of retirement. He loved our district so much, came out of retirement and actually was co-principal along with another gentleman at Landmark School for a number of years. So think the world of him, and so we named that event after him. And I wanted to thank the technology folks, Brad and those folks, for all the work they've done with state testing. State testing is always not the most fun thing to have to do for students. It's not for the adults either. And we do all of it online, which causes lots of consternation, but I think it went well without a hitch. You hear horror stories where other places break down and it doesn't work, and kids are crying, and it's a nightmare, so we're happy that it went as well as possible. Wanted to also congratulate Debbie Barton, our Director of Special Education. She's been initiated into Kappa Delta Pi, the International Honor Society in Education, at Northern Illinois University chapter, and it's a membership organization founded in 1911 to foster excellence in education and promote fellowship among those dedicated to teach. And that's all. Thanks for your patience.
Any questions for Dr. Hoffman? Okay, moving on to committee reports. Finance.
Wow. And I have to take that personally. Hope you're not laughing at me. So, we did go over the bids for the summer projects. Again, we've already approved those, the STEM labs. We also talked about we've kind of really reported on everything from finance, or we voted on it at the board already. We don't have anything that, here's my finance note, sorry. Financials, again, we're in good shape, we're running under budget. The addition, the summer projects have now been approved. The transfer of funds was also approved. We have nothing other, and we have nothing that's going to come up for consent at a future meeting at this point in time. We've done most of that stuff at the past several meetings, so.
Any questions for Pat? Thanks, Pat. Building also met, building and transportation this evening.
We did meet this evening. We also reviewed the summer bids and the projects, and really not going to take any more time. We discussed it pretty much in depth with all the other discussions tonight, so.
Any questions for Mr. Hutterman? Thanks, Mike. Okay, can I have a motion to,
One other thing.
pardon me?
Committee reports should be before we're taking action on the things that are being discussed with the committee, if they're coming forward with a recommendation from the committee.
Eric, if you recall, and I know you may not.
We did for 2 meetings.
That committee reports always come out with a recommendation that will come on the next meeting's consent agenda. So it gives people not only a chance to listen to what that stuff is going on in committee, but it gives them 2 weeks to research everything before we get to the board meeting.
Okay,
Before we get to the
these
consent
bids
agenda.
that were approved, when were those reviewed by the committee?
Well, I wasn't at the last committee meeting, so I don't, did you guys review that
They were
in the
not, they
last?
didn't exist. They came after that.
Very good.
Thank you, Eric, we will take that under advisement. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Dyer?
Yes.
Mr. Hatterman?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Pauls?
Yes.
Mr. Santo-Padre?
Yes.
Mr. Syverson?
Yes.
Thanks for coming, everybody.